A little longer than a few minutes later.
So what do we think about the Palace Hotel in Paignton? What's my overall feeling? I think it's sad. I think that these buildings, these beautiful old buildings that were put up a long time ago, you can see by how ornate the bar is, the walls in the next room to the bar. I think it's such a beautiful place. And there was a time when these hotels, people used to go to them as a treat. They were expensive hotels, they weren't cheap. But I think those days are gone. I think now that foreign travel has become so cheap and the running costs in other countries are so much lower than ours, that people go abroad who've got money. And what you're left with is what we found in the Palace Hotel, is it's full of people on what you consider a coach holiday. I think even though there wasn't a coach, there was a lot of people from Wales there in cars, and they seemed to know each other, but they weren't in a coach. So I think it's like a cooperative where they've all come together, and basically they've paid a low price for it. They paid a coach holiday kind of price, and then your standards go down when that happens, and it's very hard to pull it back. And I certainly didn't pay a small amount to go there, but I didn't feel there was the value for money there. So I was getting the same service, I was getting the same food as people who were there on a cheap coach holiday. I saw someone recently who went there who vlogged that they paid £58 for dinner, bed and breakfast. How does anyone make a profit on £58 for dinner, bed and breakfast and still spend money on the property? So beautiful hallways, beautiful reception area, and the staff were lovely in reception. Nothing wrong with the staff in reception, but the room, so it didn't even cover everything that was wrong in the room. We went in, the light above the door didn't work inside, so the like little hallway light, that didn't work. The fan that was in the wardrobe, I said, oh, there's a fan in the wardrobe, plugged it in, that didn't work. Trouser press didn't work, and there wasn't an iron there, so no means of ironing clothes. You saw the tap was wobbly, and the window kept falling down and you couldn't keep it open. The radiator that was underneath the window, that was falling apart. That wasn't great. And the towel rail in the bathroom, so when we first went in and walked into the bathroom, that was where the heat was coming from, why it was so hot in there. It was from the towel rail, and you couldn't turn it down. They just turned and turned and turned the knob. It was a gas one. So maintenance wise, I don't know whether other rooms were better, and because I used a third party, I don't know, but it just, when it was in reception, someone was phoning down and complaining about something. To have that many things wrong in a room is not great. So maintenance, problem one. So the spa, it's not in the main building, or the access is not in the main building. You have to go down some steps outside, and it was raining. Walk down the steps on the outside, then go right, and then go down some more steps and into a separate building. So already you're a bit like, this is a bit of a pain. You go through the door, through a little reception bit, enter a key code that you're given, and you walk in, and on your left hand side there's the small area that you're seeing in the video where the steam room and sauna and a little shower are. On the right hand side is the women's changing rooms. Then you walk a bit further, and on the left hand side is some steps going up to the pool, and on the right hand side is the men's changing rooms. But what becomes clear then is that you've got people walking in shoes, and people walking from the pool to the steam room area barefoot, because they don't tell you when you come in or when you're booking it or anything. It'd be a good idea to bring some flip-flops or water shoes. So walking barefoot where people are walking through in their shoes, and given how much rain there's been, it's not going to be clean. I know that they're constrained by the physicality of the building, they're constrained by the structure of it, but it just feels a poor design, or at least inform people what they need to do. In the men's changing rooms, you go through the door and you go to the left, and there's some benches and a singular changing like tiny little room that you can go in with a big wicker chair in it, which I quite understand. I don't go in there to have a bit of a sit down, I go in there to get changed. And then if you go right, instead of going into there, you go right, there's 2 showers ahead of you, then a toilet cubicle, then on your right hand side are 2 urinals, and then back on yourself there's the lockers. So I went in with my clothes, and you had to get either undressed there and stood next to a urinal, and it stank, to get changed there to put your things into the locker, or you have to get changed in the other part and then walk through and stand next to the urinals putting your things in a locker. By then you're barefoot because you're going to go swimming. It's just, who thought that was a good idea? It was smelly in there, and stood trying to put your things in a locker, and then when you go back at the end and you're having to collect your things again, you're still barefoot, your wet feet, walking stood next to toilets. So just a poor layout in there again. You might be constrained by the physical aspects of it, but why not put that stuff where the changing room bit was rather than where the lockers are? I don't know, do it the other way around. So the food, breakfast, the first morning, We found the staff to be rude, they were unhelpful. One particular chap who works there wasn't particularly helpful, quite curt, and there were no tables. And he said, oh, I'll sort it, and ran off. And then he looked like he was laying a table and sorted a table and then just vanished. Never came back to us and said, this is your table. So by then another woman had come down and said, just sit anywhere you like. Well, there were no other tables free, so we were going to that one. And he'd put the chair that I was sitting in properly in the aisleway. So it wasn't a particularly comfortable experience having breakfast the first day. Loads of people were there because it had been Valentine's Day, or the next day, Valentine's. It was very busy, lots of people coming past me. Food-wise, you have the usual, so you have cereal, the basics. There's no fancy cereals there, it was literally the basics in one of those machines that they come out of. Apart from a bowl of what is supposed to be muesli, and I refer to it as cheap muesli in the thing in my video. But it's beyond cheap. It was oats with a few raisins dropped in it. That's how cheap the muesli was. And the milk seemed like skimmed rather than semi-skimmed. It came out of the milk dispenser. That was poor. The fruits available were the frozen. They get the frozen bags of berries. I've seen them, even like Brewers Fayre and Beefeater use them for breakfast. The Premier in breakfast have these bags of frozen berries and they defrost them and put them in, so they look like mushy berries. Tinned peaches, little segments of tinned peaches, and the grapefruit pieces. So it's like broken bits of grapefruit. The yogurts were in pots, all that, and they were Yo Valley, so they were a branded yogurt. And Muller ones, although a lot of the Muller ones were toffee flavour. I don't fancy toffee flavoured yogurt for breakfast. It's a bit of a weird breakfast. Then going round the coffee machine, nothing wrong with the coffee. Coffee machine was fine. There were two of them as well. There was one at each end of the dining room, so there was never a massive queue. Pots of jams, they were all good. The butter was decent enough butter. The bread for the toaster, one of those horrible toaster machines. And in fact, this one, it went through once and it had burnt bits on it, but generally still not toast, but bread. But you feared putting this through for the second run because it was going to do that thing where you have a choice of bread or cremated toast. So it was one of those, but the bread was thick and doughy. So it wasn't cheap and thin, it was cheap and thick. So it was very squashy, claggy kind of bread. So just again using the cheapest quality. But the worst, the orange juice. I tasted the orange juice. I don't know whether the apple's the same. I tasted the orange juice and went, oh, this is watered down. This is not orange juice. And while we were sat there, a waitress came out, took the lid off, and didn't put any more orange juice in, but was stood pouring bottles of water in. So actually watering it down. They hadn't bought the cheap orange juice drink even. They were physically watering it down themselves. So it just tasted like watered down orange juice. Thick, cheap bacon. So not even thin, cheap bacon again. It was that kind where you buy like a big pack of bacon offcuts. It was like that. It was thick, not in the regular bacon shape. With just poor quality. Sausage, poor quality. Tomatoes are tomato. You can't really go wrong with a tomato. The mushrooms were little mushrooms, but they were hard. And the butter, they were cooked in butter. You can tell it was butter. They tasted nice, but the texture was horrible. Beans were okay. They were beans, and beans are beans. And the hash brown, that was clearly deep fried. It was nice and crispy. So on the second day, when we went for breakfast, the wife had scrambled eggs on toast. And shout out to Paul, who was serving on that day. He's really good. He's really helpful. A really nice guy. Much better service on the second morning than the first morning. And she had scrambled eggs on toast. And the best way of describing them, she said that they were flavourless. And they were flavourless. And the only thing I can think they do is they don't cook it in butter. They don't use milk. They felt like they were cooked in water. So you had scrambled eggs that had no flavour at all. You can put salt and pepper on it. It didn't bring out any flavour. So they definitely just cooked in water or something. They're done very odd to do that. So on to other parts of the hotel. They have the pod, the nice little dome. It's a lovely idea, and if they'd put it nearer to the hotel in the gardeny bit at the front, not quite just sat in the car park, it would probably be a much better idea. But putting it there in the car park seems a bit weird. I don't want to sit and eat my dinner while this car's coming in and out next to me. And the price, that's just ridiculous. You can't charge £50 just for using it and then charge more for the food. That wasn't a menu that's available inside the restaurant. That is the pod menu. So if it's the pod menu, build the cost of using the pod into the price of that. It's just transparent. I heard someone at the counter saying they got it booked, and she said, yeah, that's a £50 non-refundable deposit. Well, if it's non-refundable, it's a charge, it's not a deposit. So overall, the hotel, it's a beautiful building. It's seen better days. It's not going to remain a hotel forever. You can see that's the case. They're not going to survive on these coach tours. None of these hotels are going to survive on that. They need to be offering something different. They need to go upmarket. Problem is, Paignton's not particularly upmarket. We've got 2 new hotels, the Mercure and the Ibis Styles, that offer the perfect room every time, never going to change, always the same. They have a standard they have to meet. And so people are going to go there. They're not going to go somewhere where you go, oh, is everything going to work? Is the breakfast not going to be of a standard? Is it not going to be clean? I will give the hotel that. Cleanliness, spot on. The cleaners were all friendly as well, so whenever we spoke to the cleaners, but they kept the lovely carpets in there. They kept the lovely carpets clean. So you've got to give it that. But just not the best hotel experience ever. So I hope this helps if you're thinking about coming to Paignton, about some ideas of where to go. There's some little gems in there like La Scala, Hyde, Dendy if you're going for a carvery. At the moment, January through to March, they've got offers on. So the spinning wheel, they've got offers on at the moment. So they are trying to attract people in the low seasons. I mentioned when driving down the bar, the Upside Bar with the real ales. Fantastic place. The range of beers that you won't see anywhere. It changes every week. Great little place. But I hope that you've gained something from this, and please like and subscribe if you want to. I'm going to be doing lots more, going around different places and doing different foods, different hotels, different countries. So please, if you like and subscribe.